Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Birth and Baby Talk. If you've been following along, you know my name is Meaghan Grant, and I am one of the owners of Toronto Family Doulas of Ottawa, and Hamilton Family Doulas. I have been a birth and postpartum doula and childbirth educator for 8 and some odd years now, so this is definitely my wheelhouse. And before I was a doula, I actually worked with families in sort of behavioral therapy and child development. So I have been working with families and kids my entire adult life, my entire career as it's sort of evolved over time. This is a topic I love talking about because when you bring home a new baby, the entire dynamic of the family changes and there's going to be adjustments that need to be made. So today we are talking about introducing your baby to your older child. Last week we talked about your oldest or your firstborn being in the 0 to 5 sort of range, the younger of the big siblings. And now we're going to talk about the 5 to 10 crowd. They're a bit different than the younger kids because they kind of get it more. They understand your pregnancy more. They understand babies a little bit more. And there's a good chance that their friends and peers in school have had a younger sibling at some point. And so they have seen some of what that experience looks like, especially pre-pandemic when we could have play dates and send our kids to other houses and they would, be in the home when a new baby is crying or getting changed or feeding, that sort of thing. So this older group of kids is a little bit more aware of what's coming. Now that can be a good thing. Sometimes these kids get super excited and super into this idea of being a big brother or a big sister, of having a small baby in the house. And they really want to be helpers, just like the younger crowd. They want to be involved. And that's amazing. But you're also going to get some of these kids who know that their life is about to change in a really big way and are super unimpressed with that idea. So you have to be ready for both of those worlds, because even those kids that are super excited about having a sibling, they are going to very quickly discover once their new sibling arrives that it is not everything that Daniel Tiger taught them it would be, and it is going to be a little bit harder than they expected. So last week, I sort of gave you these big general ideas of what to do. This week, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to go into a little bit more detail because this is an age group that needs a little bit more detail. So the first thing I am going to say, and this starts in your pregnancy and continues all the way through, and is truthfully on just a good sort of parenting practice generally, and that is to open the space for your child to express their feelings and emotions. Now, what do I mean when I say that? You're gonna have to teach your child a lot of this. There's a lot of conversation about what you're feeling. When we did this with my kids, and we did it for different reasons. We did it because our oldest has anxiety. We did a lot of labeling. What are you feeling right now? What is your body telling you? I'm your parent. I'm looking at you. Your body language is telling me that you're stressed. And I know that because your shoulders are tight and your face is, scrunched and you're holding yourself away from me. So we would label these emotions and these feelings with our child. And then he was eventually able to label them back to us. That was the start of it. So then as situations and stressors occurred in his life, we were able to walk through and say, what are you feeling right now? How can we change that feeling to something more positive or more comfortable for you to be feeling right now? And by having those conversations, we really created sort of this emotional maturity where he, at a fairly young age, was able to discuss a lot of the emotions that he was feeling. Now, why is this important with kids who are getting a brand new baby sibling? Because there's going to be stressors. You're bringing home a baby for your 5 to 10-year-old is a stressor, even if they are excited about it. And there are going to be days when they're super thrilled with the baby, and there are going to be days when they are super pissed about there being a baby here. And being able to label those emotions actually helps them to take a step back from the actual emotion itself and work through what is happening. And with your guidance, you can work through some ways to sort of manage those emotions. It also means that you as the parent are aware of certain things that can become triggers. If you know, or if you notice that 5 o'clock every day is a really hard time for your 8-year-old and your baby, you're gonna want to really create some routines and strategies around that time of day, because you've noticed that it's a trigger for your older child and it's a time of the day when your baby really needs you. So over time, you're able to sort of use that labeling of emotion and that opportunity to discuss feelings and emotions to really identify where your child is struggling in this journey of siblinghood and help them to work through those feelings. The other piece of that is create a safe space for your older child. So that could be a tent. My oldest has bunk beds, so his top bunk is his safe space. And so, you know, really, whether it's their bedroom, a bunk bed, a particular chair in the house, somewhere where it is their safe space. And this can be where they can go and nobody's allowed to bug them. Nobody can, you know, try and get them to talk through some things, because kids aren't always going to want to talk. We know that. It's a place where they can go to calm down. Now, depending on the age and the preferences of your child, there's some things in your safe spaces that can help. Things like weighted blankets or weighted lap items can help a child who's really frustrated and upset to calm down. Other kids like to have, you know, fairy lights or books or their favorite stuffies in this space. It's a place where they can go to just have some time to themselves and to calm down. And it's really important that these older kids have some of that alone time, because we all know what babies can be like. They're these tiny little things with a lot of stuff, and the stuff ends up sort of scattered throughout the whole house. And for a child who's been an only child for 10 years, that's a big change. And so having an area that is theirs alone, that can't be encroached on by all of the baby's stuff, that they can go, even headphones with music or waves or something calming to listen to, where they can block out the sound of an upset baby crying. All of this is really giving them that place to retreat to, where they don't have to be a big sibling, where they don't have to sort of be on their best behavior, and they don't have to worry about, you know, getting in trouble, or even just getting, you know, reminded, not now, don't touch the baby, gentle hands, all of these things. So it gives them a place to retreat to, and that's really important for these kids. The next thing is that I want to suggest is keep your routines as much as possible. This is true for the younger set. This is true for the older set. It totally goes out the window for parents, but for your kids, as much as possible, maintain some of those routines. If you and your older child cooked Saturday morning breakfast together and then watched cartoons every Saturday, you need to find a way to maintain that routine once your baby is here. Maybe not in the first 2 or 3 weeks, we get it. Like, babies in the very, very beginning need a lot of hands-on, and your older child will understand that delay to a point. There comes a point where your older child needs you to step back into that role. So while the first month may not be the time to do that, it is going to be the time a little bit further down the road. Go back to those routines. Go back to those special moments and activities that the two of you did together as much as you can. You know, obviously there's going to be exceptions and there's going to be things that need to change, and the pandemic means that a lot of our normal routines and activities have changed or are even canceled still. And so you may not be able to get back to them for other reasons. But any of these, you know, routines that you've had that you can maintain, try and get back to them as quickly as possible to give your older child that sort of touchstone of continuity and care. If you can't get back to your routines, or on top of those routines, one of my favorite things for parents to do with an older new sibling is to learn something new together. So this looks like really giving your older child something to have ownership over in this postpartum period with you. And it also gives them this feeling of the two of you not just embarking on this journey with a new baby, but you and your older child embarking on their own journey together. And that's really important for these kids to feel like they are still part of the family and like they still have a good chunk of your attention. That's really what they're looking for. So some of the things that I love to suggest, this is a great age group to get into the kitchen. They really love that feeling of being hands-on, making muffins, Right now, my 6-year-old is super into helping me make lasagna. So we eat lasagna way more often than we used to because he really wants to make lasagna. There's lots of things. There's tons of websites and YouTube channels and Instagram where you can find recipes that are great to introduce kids to new skills like mixing and measuring and even cutting if your child is old enough to be using some of those bigger knives and get into like, cooking vegetables, that sort of thing in the kitchen. This is a great opportunity. Another thing that I really like and see families doing is starting either a series of books or a series on television. This is something that you can get into together. Audiobooks are a great option here, especially for those of you who are in the early days and your hands are occupied with a fading baby, whether you are nursing or you are bottle feeding, your hands are busy, turning pages gets complicated. You might not be able to be staring at the page the whole time, but an audiobook does all that work for you, and you and your older child can still follow along with the story and have some really quality discussions about what's being said in the book. Pick a book that they're gonna love. This doesn't need to be a book about becoming a sibling. Toss that stuff. That's, by the time the baby's here, it's not too late for that, but it's not as relevant anymore. Pick a book that your kid is gonna get into. Harry Potter, the Percy Jackson books are the current favorite in my household. All kinds of books out there, whatever your child is into. This is an opportunity to really connect with them. The last thing I'm going to say, and this is true with the younger set and the older set and yourselves as parents, lower your expectations. I know that this is hard, especially because with an older child, there is a good chance you are in a family routine. It's been a long time since you had sleepless nights. It's been a long time since you dealt with diapers. It's been a long time since there was a crying baby at 3 o'clock in the morning who is inconsolable no matter what you do. So everybody has this huge shift coming. And it's hard. And the first couple of months, there's a reason we call it the 4th trimester. It's not easy. The first 3 months are about survival. So what does that mean in terms of practical, have your child, have your baby, everybody gets to the end of the 4th trimester in more or less one piece? Practical tips. Screen time limits may not be adhered to for the short term. I know there's lots of families out there who really want to sort of monitor and maintain a really strict schedule around screen time. This is great if it works for your family, but it might not work so well in this time, simply because you may not be able to notice that a certain time has come and gone. If the timing is you can only use your screen until 12:30. Well, you may look up at the clock at 12:46 and go, oh, you were supposed to be done 16 minutes ago. Don't worry so much about those hard limits. Let those limits sort of go. And your kids are old enough at this age that you can say, this is an exception while your baby sibling is super young, but eventually we're going to go back to our old routine. And by the time you're ready to go back to a little bit of your old routine around screen time, there's a good chance your baby is old enough that you can plunk them in a carrier, plunk them in the stroller. Everybody can go to the park. Everybody can go for a walk outside. Your baby is old enough to be on the play mat beside you on the floor while you play a game with your older child. Your baby is taking more consistent naps for a more consistent length of time. So you're able to plan and schedule activities with your older child a little bit more. But that comes down the road. So understand that some of that scheduling, some of that timing isn't going to happen in the first couple of weeks or first couple of months even. The next sort of practical piece of advice of lowering your expectations, take out as your friend, so are meal delivery services. If you can get your kid involved in this, in cooking particularly, the nice thing is you're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You're able to make dinner and spend time with your older child. You have to do both. And if you can do it together, you're able to sort of maximize your time with your child while also seeing to the needs of yourself and your household. So you're able to sort of combine some of those activities whenever possible. The other thing is recognize that the idyllic sibling relationship of, I love the pictures on Instagram that come up of like an older sibling very sweetly kissing their newborn baby sister or brother. Those are great, but those are social media. They are not everyday life. Most of us don't put our kids in, really super adorable, fancy, frilly dresses and outfits on a daily basis, especially not right after having a baby. So remember that those sort of images and ideas are based on an ideal, and you're going to get them some days and you're not going to reach that ideal on others. You are going to have days where your older child throws a total shit fit. It's going to happen. They probably did it before you had a baby, and they're going to do it after you have a baby, but it's going to feel 1,000 times harder to deal with after you have a baby because you also have a baby. So, understand that these days and these hard moments are going to come. This is where that talking about emotions, labeling them, walking through them with your child is really going to help, because you're able to recognize when your child is having a hard day and pivot. I hate the word pivot, but I'm going to use the word pivot. If, what you're doing that day is not working for your older child, maybe it's a day to say, hey, let's throw the couch cushions on the floor. We'll grab some blankets and we are going to have a picnic camping movie afternoon. And that's what you do, because nobody has the spoons to do anything else. You're tired. Your older child is tired and frustrated, and the baby's losing it every time their older brother or sister loses it. That's a day to just sort of cancel and do whatever works. Really sort of adjust what you think is going to happen. It's not going to be like your first baby. It's a lot harder to nap when the baby naps when you've got a 6-year-old who doesn't nap anymore and really wants your attention. And especially now with schools out, with all of these kids at home learning virtually, unless the younger crowd who are in preschool, but the older crowd, this 5 to 10 group, are primarily in school right now, and that means virtual school. And that adds a whole other dynamic. Again, teachers might not like me for saying this, but you've got to give yourself and your child grace. Virtual schooling is hard enough. Becoming a new sibling is hard enough. When you add the two of those things together, it can make for some really hard days. So give yourself some grace, give your child some grace and some space to really sort of grow into this role. Don't expect them to be that perfect, happy, loving child from the very beginning, and don't expect it every minute of every day. There's going to be great days and there's going to be crappy days. And that is part of life with a newborn. That is part of life with a child. And when you smoosh it all together, it just really exacerbates the entire sort of idea that it's not predictable. You just got to roll with the flow, especially in the first couple of months. Now, if you are not signed up for our newsletter, you definitely want to do that. We send out free printables, information on our services, eventually, if life ever reopens, we will send information on local events in your area. And you also get access to special deals that nobody else knows about. They're not advertised. They're not part of our regular packages. They are just there for our Birth and Baby Talk audience. So make sure you are signed up for that. We will definitely be putting the link in the comments below so you can pay attention. That alarm in the background is my kids going back to their virtual school. The joys of parenting in a pandemic. So really, make sure you're signed up for our newsletter. Make sure you're following us on all of our social media channels. If you're not aware, that is Family Doulas of Ottawa, Toronto Family Doulas, Hamilton Family Doulas, and Birth and Baby Talk. I know that's a lot of channels to be following, and if you're not in those areas, why would you follow them? It's because we're sharing different tips every day and every week on each of our channels, all of them related to the topic at hand. So you really want to follow along to really get the value out of all of the information we are presenting. It's not all in one spot, it's scattered a little bit, so make sure you are following along. And we are looking forward to seeing you next week for the month of May. Bye, everybody.